Hey guys, welcome to CameraPro on the Couch, supported by Canon. Today we've got Emily Abay on with us, and we just wanted to remind everyone to subscribe, like to our channel, so you can keep up to date with everything. But without ado, we'll welcome Emily. So thanks, Emily, for coming.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So I guess we'll just start out by maybe getting you to introduce a little bit about who you are, what you shoot, give us as much detail as you like. Yeah.
Sure. No worries. Well, I'm Emily Abay. I'm 36 now, about to turn 37. I always forget how old I am these days. I shoot fashion advertising. And so for the last almost 20 years, I've been shooting commercial fashion photography. It's been incredible. Just been taking me around the world and also amazing destinations, and it's been quite an amazing journey so far. But I started about when I was 18, so it's been a while now.
Yeah, cool. And so you've recently become a Canon master, and you're like in pretty high demand in the fashion world. Tell us a little bit more about how you actually began and got into photography.
So I took up photography just as an elective in high school. I was always really creative and not really much into the academic side of school. So mum encouraged me more to concentrate into the creative field. So I was really into painting and sculpting, and so my mum is actually a photographer as well. So at home, we had just the most amazing range of cameras and lenses. We had a studio, we had a dark room, everything. So I think mum was just like waiting for the day that I finally would come to her and say, I want to get into photography. Can you teach me? Because I felt it was only really natural. I was already painting and just loving art. And so photography was just going to be another way of expressing myself. Mum knew that she wasn't going to be able to push it onto me, because otherwise I would think it was super uncool. So she waited. I guess I learned a lot just incidentally being around mum all the time. So she was constantly shooting and constantly in the dark room, and literally breastfeeding me in the dark room, which probably isn't so safe with all the fixer and developer, but that's what was happening at the time in the 80s. So I think I learned a lot with her. But I didn't even realize I was learning at the time. Like, she would point things out to me while we'd be driving in the car. Like, if there's dappled light on the wall or something like that, she would stop and be like, Em, look how beautiful this is. And I didn't realize what she was appreciating until I got a bit older and I wanted to learn how to shoot film. And so then, the day finally came and she was like, yes, finally. So she gave me everything and all the tips and tools and everything, and taught me how to develop film. We had a darkroom at school, but it was super dirty. So all the film that I was developing at school, it came out muddy all the time. That, like, the whites weren't white, and I didn't know what was wrong. I knew that it didn't look good, but I didn't know why until mum brought me into her darkroom and she's like, this is how you actually do it. So before Photoshop, we were doing all the dodging and burning and all that kind of stuff, and just playing with different shapes in the enlarger, and it was super amazing, like, just to have that experience. So that's how I got into it. I just picked it up through my mum and at school, and then I realized that this is something that I really love, and maybe I can turn it into a career if I'm lucky.
Yeah, cool. And you definitely have done that. I guess in terms of like getting into it, it's like such a beautiful thing that you got to have your mum around and be your main teacher. If you were to give any sort of like advice for people who are trying to get into it, how do you think, and they don't happen to have a beautiful mum like yours, how do you think they'd get into it? Like, what's the first thing maybe you'd suggest starting out with? Is it gear, or is it learning something, or what do you think?
It's a good question, to be honest. I think that definitely go buy yourself a camera. Like, I think everybody, you know, these days they're it's nice to have the iPhone, obviously, just to just capture those moments when you see it and learn about the basic rules, like, you know, the rule of thirds, that kind of stuff. You can teach yourself very basic stuff like with your iPhone, but it's nothing is the same. It's not, you're not a photographer if you have an iPhone. So
Yeah.
you need to go out and get yourself a camera. You just have to. You need to learn manual as well. So it's you know, it's not just about pointing and shooting. And you know, like it's just like, what if you want to get up really early in the morning when it's you know, the sun's rising, you want to get all that beautiful flare on camera. You're not going to get that with automatic settings on your iPhone. You need to go out and get a professional or semi-professional camera, but something that you're able to have more control over, to do your long exposures, to bump your ISO up, to change around with different lenses, get, you know, play with different little tools that you can dirty the frame and you know, and pick up the refraction of light in your lens, all that kind of stuff. Like it's more about experimenting rather than just pointing and shooting and what you see. You know, turn it into something that's like that you know, that's more for you. So and I think when you own a camera as well, it gives you an excuse to really go out and be in that moment as well. So you actually have to go look for it. You have to make the effort to get up in the morning. You know, maybe one day you're going for a walk down a track and you won't go the same way as you normally go. You'll go a different way because you might see something different. Like it really encourages you to get out and open your eyes.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean, and I guess that's great advice, considering it not only do you need to invest in gear or at least have something to begin with, it's about like maybe going a different way to what you usually would go, or trying new things to get different viewpoints, etc. Do you think you find yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and definitely, what I used to do as well, like I went to university and I studied photography for 3 years, so I was really fortunate in that sense. But maybe for the people who, you know, they don't, you know, they're then just not going to commit 3 years of studying photography, but they can still, you know, pick up tricks on YouTube and watch tutorials and also just like starting to follow the photographers that, you know, you really like and admire, and maybe you can see yourself shooting like that one day. Really study their photos and you know, and try to figure out what they did to get that shot. You know, maybe even message them and ask them, what time of day did you shoot this, and then go experiment like with that yourself. So yeah, for people who don't have my mother.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and I think that's great advice, because it, by looking and observing people's work, it's the only way we really absorb things, to be able to come up with ideas, or, you know, see what everyone else is doing. It's a good tool to have. I think that being said, do you have any specific ways in which you source locations, or like, I know you do a lot of amazing locations. How do you go about sourcing locations?
Oh, that I've been really lucky with locations, to be honest.
Oh
um,
yeah.
but yeah, but when we like, you know, often I live in Sydney, so you know, often we have to shoot here, and we don't want to keep shooting the same location over and over and over again. Really, we do have to mix it up a little bit. Um, back in the day, back in the day, it sounds so long ago. I now I'm now I say that because now I'm familiar with a lot of the locations that you know, in around Sydney and the coast and the beaches. So I have a, you know, memory bank in my head of what things are going to look like at, you know, at certain times of the day. But back in the day, I would literally just get in the car and I would go driving, and I would, you know, drive to a point where I couldn't drive anymore, and then I would get on foot, and then I would just start walking. So I would look on Google Earth or Google Maps or whatever, and see something that, you know, that I was interested in going and investigating. And then I would just drive there. And and usually it's sunrise or sunset, just so I can see what the light's actually doing as well. And so that way I can recommend to my clients what I think is going to be best for future. And so that way you just have a bank of locations straight away, because you're going to get asked like by every single client, where should we shoot? And so you need to have an answer for them, and not just one answer. You need to give them a few options as well.
Options.
Yeah, but then sometimes we use a location scouting business as well. So which is also like really helpful. Like, you know, if we need a Spanish looking villa in the middle of Cronulla or something like that, we need to use location services.
When it's really specific like that.
Yeah, definitely. Because I don't think people really appreciate me knocking on their door going, "Excuse me, can I just look at your backyard?" I saw it on Google Earth when I was stalking you.
Just went a little research round. Cool.
Yeah, exactly. That happens a lot.
And so following on from that, like, what about all the models and everything? Do you use, like, the agencies you use, do they have models? Like, do you have any say in that, or how does that all work?
Yeah, so I have a really good relationship with a lot of the modeling agencies now, which is super nice, because it used to be like just emailing them like, "Hi, my name is Emily, and I'd like to do a test shoot with one of your girls." And so now it's much easier. I just email like, "Hey, it's Em. Who have you got?" You know, it's like it's nice. But yeah, we do most of the time we use agency models, especially for advertising, because often there's a brief with the model, like, you know, we might need a girl with freckles or a redhead, something like that. So I prefer to deal with agencies just to see who they can give. And there's so many beautiful girls and guys in Sydney at the moment. So it's and then we're just getting more and more coming in now that everything's all back to normal almost. So and that way as well, it's like I really prefer working with agency models, just because as well, like they turn up, they know that they're there to do a job. Like all the TNCs have been arranged prior as well, and we just know exactly what we're going to get on the day. And also just for the model, then I know that they're protected by their agencies as well. So they're, you know, if they're sending out a 16-year-old girl or something like that, like I know, I'm confident knowing that they're going to arrive on the day knowing that they're going to be taken care of. They're going to be safe. Their agent has already briefed them on, you know, what to expect and what to do and all that kind of stuff. So you just get like a really good level of professionalism. Or I find that when you use an agency model. And again, if there's an issue, like say you've asked for a redheaded girl and she turns out with purple tips in her hair, you can contact the agent, and then you know, they'll send out, you know, somebody else or so it then eliminates that awkward conversation that you might have to have with the model, and it eliminates any uncomfortable conversations about like how much do you want to get paid, all that kind of stuff. It's just better to talk to a middleman, I find.
Yeah, totally. It makes your job a lot easier, and there's no awkwardness at all. So that's good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. The only awkwardness is when I'm like, "Hey, you need to get into this pool and it's only 5 degrees today."
Do you mind shivering?
Do you mind? Yeah, just for 1 second. I promise it'll be worth it.
Yeah, true. And so have you always been into fashion? Like when you started out, were you always into fashion? Or have you tried any other avenues of photography?
Yeah, I've tried it. I do a few bits and pieces here and there. Fashion is definitely my main interest and income and everything. And it's what I like to do. I'm not so much interested in fashion itself. I'm not exactly like the epitome of style. Often when I'm on a job, I'm, you know, in a like scrunchy and like gym clothes. So I don't care about fashion on me or anything like that. But I just love a lot of the work that goes into the pieces with the designers that I work with. So I just appreciate that, you know, the time that they've spend and the care that they put into it. So, but fashion definitely interested me in the beginning, just because, well, to be honest, I thought it was going to be easy. I was like, I'm a girl, and so of course it's going to be, fashion is obviously what I'm going to do. But that's my 18-year-old self saying that. So I didn't really know what else, what other opportunity I was going to really have. So I experimented a little bit with architecture, food. I tried a bit of car photography as well.
Oh yeah.
I do like sports shoots as well, so like Pilates and yoga and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't mind shooting food photography actually, because then I get to eat it after. So that's always a bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that incentive.
And so on the food thing then, are you like, going down a sidetrack, so I noted like you obviously have your restaurant you opened, and I noticed the photography on there is really beautiful. Do you take that photography yourself, or do you have someone else do it?
I do it myself.
Yeah,
my
it's awesome.
thank you. My husband and I opened the restaurant just over a year ago in Bondi.
Congratulations.
And thank you. I never thought I'd be a restaurateur, but here we are. He's the pro. I just help make it look pretty. So but yeah, no, it's been really good, just being able to shoot it myself, because when he's always worked in restaurants. And when I first met him, he showed me a bit of the work that was on the Instagram pages of the places where he worked, and it was good, but it was like it could be better. And I obviously, I have another interest in with the photography for the restaurant, because it's all ours. So and I know what time of day the restaurant is going to look the most beautiful. So I have access to it at 6:15 in the morning when the sun's starting to rise, and I can move furniture around, and I just I wanted to bring the best out of it. And I thought hiring another photographer, they're not going to see what I see. And because I've seen it so many times that I just feel like it's like my child. I know it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and I also like to use a lot of daylight, mainly daylight. Like, I don't really like to shoot food with artificial lighting. Like, sometimes you need it, obviously, if you get to the shoot and it's a really rainy day. Like, you come with a backup plan as well, so you can really mimic the daylight and bring a couple of continuous lights or whatever. But it's just where our restaurant is positioned. It's right in Bondi Beach, so it looks over the ocean. So that when the sun hits the ocean, it acts as a reflector into our restaurant. So the food looks amazing. So I'm like,
cool.
so good.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's been really handy. Because then as well, like anytime we have a new dish or something like that, then I can just quickly run in, take a photo of the dish, rather than every single time hiring another photographer. So saved us a bit of money.
Yeah, and it's awesome. It's your baby, so it's nice to be able to say you've like done everything, I guess, related to it as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I think my husband is he is a gun with operations, but doesn't really have much of a creative bone in his body. So that's why he's happy to leave it to me. And I know nothing about operations, so we're an incredible team in that sense, because we just we don't butt heads on anything. He just lets me do me, and I let him do him.
Yeah, nice. And so recently you've become a new mum, which is very exciting. Yeah. So how was that whole process of working while you're pregnant? You continued to work and float along, or how'd that go?
I did. I tried to work literally right up until the day I was giving birth. But and that was amazing. Like, in fact, I was saying before, there's a review video that I did on the R3 for Canon.
Oh yeah, cool.
And I was quite pregnant in that video as well.
Yep.
And so we were getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go shoot surfers, and I'm running up and down Bondi Beach, pregnant, trying to get photos of these surfers. So honestly, I'd thank God for the eye tracking in the new mirrorless cameras, because if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have gotten one shot in focus, I think, because I was a little bit too slow. But so no, working pregnant was it like, I think I kind of, when I was shooting, I forgot that I was pregnant. I'm one of those people that, like, I don't really I like to just do things, like if I want to get up on top of a ladder, I'm going to go get the ladder myself. I'm going to put it where I want, and then I'm going to jump up. But what I keep forgetting to do is asking my assistants, hey, can you get that ladder and put it here, and then can you hold it while I safely walk up with a really expensive camera and lens in my hand, so then I don't fall off. So the amount of times I've just gone and done something myself, and then my assistant turns around and he's like, oh my God, no, like, you just let me help you, because this is not safe. So so what I was doing that while I was pregnant as well. So I had to be a little bit more conscious of, like, okay, I can't really roll around on the dirt or the sand right now. I have to I've got another human inside my stomach. So so it was
awesome.
good. There were a lot of challenges, but then towards the end, unfortunately, I had a few complications, so I had to stop working about 6 weeks before I gave birth, which was devastating. I actually had a job it was a really fun job for Mercedes-Benz that I was shooting, and then we weren't starting until later in the day, and then that morning I just went for a checkup, and they took my blood pressure, and it was crazy high, and they wouldn't let me leave the hospital. And I was like, no, you have to let me go. I'm shooting for Mercedes today. Like, I'm going. And they just were like almost strapping me down to the bed. And I just was like, I don't know what to do. And so anyway, I finally convinced them to let me go shoot for 2 hours, and then I promise I'll come straight back to the hospital. I know. So I left the hospital, rang my assistants, and I'm like, okay, so I'm literally not allowed to do anything today except press the button. That's it. So you need to do everything for me. And then I ring my husband. I'm like, you have to pack a bag for me, because I'm coming straight to the hospital from the photo shoot. So that's
wild.
So then that was my last job. So
okay. Well, you took it out with a bang.
I'm like sticking this to the end, because I'm like, don't want to disappoint the client. And I had in my head this is going to be my last day, so I was really excited. And I didn't want high blood pressure to take that away from me.
True. So we'll just talk about, so you mentioned the R3. So do you shoot with an R3, or what's your go-to camera you shoot with?
So I've always been a Mark IV girl. So I've been shooting on the Mark cameras for years and years and years. So but then just recently I got the R5. I thought the R3 was amazing. But I didn't really need to go down that avenue, because I don't really shoot a lot of fast-paced moving objects, and I don't shoot a lot of sport or anything like that. The R5 still does like 12 frames per second. So I was like, this is enough. This is fine. The high def shooting, continuous shooting on the R5 is definitely enough for what I do. I was quite adamant about staying on the Mark IV. And I think the guys at Sun Studios where I work had a bit of a bet going on to see who would be the one to sell me the R5. So then I finally came in one day, and I was like, all right, give it to me. I'm throwing in the towel. I surrender. I want the new camera. So I got it, and I can't believe I didn't get it sooner. Like, it's just I am luckily I got it just before I had an overseas trip booked a couple of months ago. I had to go to the Bahamas and LA for work for a few weeks. And So I took the R5 with me, and I got the new 70 to 200 2.8 as well, which is the lens that I often
Nice.
shoot on. And yeah, like it was amazing. It took out weight from my camera bag as well. And it just was such a pleasure to shoot on because of how light it was. So I was really, really grateful that I actually made that decision to buy everything before I left, because it just was a bit of a mission to lug everything else around all the time, and just to have that weight difference makes the biggest difference. So
yeah. And so you notice a
yeah.
big change, do you think, with the art? Like, do you think the focusing is better, or what do you think the main improvements were that helps your shooting style?
I really love the ISO range, to be honest. It's so broad. And I'll shoot before the sun rises and after the sun sets as well. So my ISO is crazy high. And then sometimes the images will get blown up to, like, to do a wrap around a bus or something like that. So the ISO range on the Mark IV was good. I didn't know any better, but now that I'm shooting on the R5, I'm like, it's blown my mind. It's still got like maintaining the integrity, and there's not a grain overload. I can still see the image perfectly clear. And yeah, and just the eye tracking as well has really made a difference for me. Because I do, even though I don't shoot anyone doing a sport, but so I don't need to shoot someone as fast as on a surfboard or anything like that. But yeah, but my subjects are still moving. So if I'm getting a girl walking through the water in a bikini photo shoot or something like that, it's really, really made a difference that I can walk with her while we're shooting, and it's not back focusing. And which, that, like, I've been doing it for so long that it's like I didn't really have an issue too often where it would back focus, because I was constantly on the Mark IV just refocusing all the time. So I was just used to that. But now it's like it's doing it for me. And yeah, like, it's too smart for me now. But yeah, so that's really made a huge difference to me. So and then the full frame sensor as well. It's like, it's so nice when we're shooting, like, big, large scenic landscapes with for banners for the clients as well. Because often when we shoot an advertising campaign, you need a couple of banner images, or they want some scenic shots or something like that as fillers for their campaign. So it's that's been amazing to actually be able to shoot wide and it's not cropping anything. So yeah, I'm a really big fan of the R5 now. So I
As much as you hate to say
yeah.
it, you love it.
I'm happy to say it now. I don't even hate to say it. So yeah, I thought that I would have the Mark IV and the R5 both in the kit at the same time, to be like, oh well, what if I want to go back to the Mark IV? And it's gone now. It's like
it's done.
It's collecting dust.
True. And so in addition to the lenses, is that the lens you mentioned, the 70 to RF 70 to 200? Do you use any other? What's your other go-to lenses?
The 24 to 70 is probably my most used lens for fashion. It just gives me a lot of flexibility, and I mainly will shoot on 35 or 50 when we're using the 24 to 70. But depending on where I'm standing as well, next to my subject, in front of my subject, I can distort her and make her look taller, and which is also, it's really good for fashion. So 24 to 70 and the 70 to 200 are definitely my go-tos. Although I tend to use the macro a lot as well, because I shoot just in the last few years, I started shooting a lot of fine jewelry, and they're very, very fine pieces these days. They're super tiny. So the macro has been beautiful, even for portraiture. It's a really, really nice lens. So I have all the prime lenses as well, but I just kind of end up going just for just my zoom lenses. Just often when we're shooting fashion as well, we're shooting so fast and we're doing the changes so fast that I don't really have a lot of time to stand there and set the shot up perfectly with a prime. I need to be able to get a full body, a 3/4, a headshot, all that kind of stuff, and get a landscape and everything. So I'll often get the 35 out, but it's not very often.
It's not
these
practical,
days.
I guess.
Not really, no. Not unless if you're in a studio, fine, because you're going to sit on a tripod likely anyway. So, but when you're outdoors, and you're off the tripod, which I'm often off the tripod, I need to have my zoom lens.
Yeah. And do you use any? So talk a little bit maybe about your lighting and stuff. So you're obviously predominantly a natural light, but you mentioned earlier that maybe sometimes you'll bring a backup flash. Is that your normal process, or how does that work?
Yeah, definitely. So you never know what the weather's going to do. You can't control it, even if it says it's going to be a sunny day. And it could end up being gale force winds, like it's been in Sydney recently. The sun is so gorgeous, but there's full on polar Arctic winds coming through. So I think you've just got to be prepared for all scenarios. And even right now, when we're getting such shorter days, but clients still want the full 8 to 10 hours as well. So you have to when the sun's going down, you might be using only natural daylight coming through a beautiful window. What happens when that sun goes behind a building? You need to be able to set up some lighting just to keep that consistency. So I usually will bring I've got broncolor, so that's my sort of go-to for flash. And then I've got a couple of continuous lights as well. There's some daylight balance light pro, so it's just LEDs. And I find that it's really nice just to pump just a little bit of light just onto the skin if the sun's starting to go down, but you're still wanting to use natural daylight. But if the skin's starting to go grey, or purple or blue or anything like that, having that continuous light, you can just pump a little bit of the warmth back into it. So then it's never going to be the same to me as just using daylight. But it can really make or break the difference with those last few outfits that you're shooting for the client. Like, you want it to look really beautiful for them. And even if the client says we're just using daylight, my car is completely packed full of equipment at all times.
And so what else is in your kit then? So you obviously have your broncolor lights. Do you have reflectors, or do you use any colored gels over your lights or anything like that?
Sometimes like when we've been in studio, if we've done a sportswear campaign or something like that, sometimes it's a little bit of fun just to get a gel in there. We did a sportswear campaign just recently where they wanted some movement through the shots. And I, just for a bit of fun, I asked the client if we could throw a gel onto the blur that was coming off off the model. So we had flash and continuous. So the flash was obviously freezing the subject, and then I had the shutter speed down to the 15th or 10th of a second, something that was gonna really get the ambient that was coming through from the continuous gel. And so we managed to shoot the model frozen doing something athletic, and then she has this pink blur coming off her body. So that was a bit cool.
That's cool.
Gel yeah, gels are really handy to have when you just want to mix it up a little bit. And if you're, if the shot's just looking a little bit like, well, it's just not looking too inspirational. I've had the same gels since I was 18. So 19 years I've had the same gels.
Yeah, nice.
I bought them while I was in uni. So,
Yeah,
and they're still perfect condition. They're amazing.
yeah.
But another thing that's that we have in the kit, I like to bring what's my assistant brings it from his kit, but we've got the same stuff here. I always ask him to bring a prism, and it's a triangular prism that you can just get online, and or just if you you can buy crystals or something like that, and so that way we can reflect the light into the lens and create a little bit of
Oh,
flare, create rainbow, a few shapes. We can distort the image, we can mirror the model, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, cool.
the triangular prisms, they're super fun to play with, and they always impress the client as well. So if I'm not getting much of a reaction from the client while they're looking at the computer when the images are tethering, I'm like, get the prism. So my assistant will run to his bag, get the prism out, and then I stick it in front of the lens, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, wow, that's amazing. And I'm like, yes,
That's awesome.
that's the
Yeah, cool,
reaction that
cool.
we wanted. We want to inspire.
Yeah, yeah, totally. That's cool. That's a good little tip because yeah, I actually have never seen one or used one myself. So that's cool.
Yeah, they're incredible. I actually used to go to antique stores and buy the crystals from chandeliers, because you know how often they
Oh,
just will have like the chandelier crystals in a basket or something. If it's real
yeah.
crystal, it's going to have the rainbow through it, and you can buy all different shapes as well. And even
Mm.
like the lid from like a decanter, like a
Yeah,
you know which is an excuse to like buy wine as well.
yeah.
Um, um, if it's real crystal, then you can like you put it in front of the lens and just have a play with it as well. Like you can get some really you can do some really amazing beauty images
Mm.
with prisms and crystals, and just flicking some light onto an eye. I did a shoot a couple of months ago where I was shooting beauty, and I was like, this is pretty, but I'm not like, oh my God, this is super cool. So I
Mm.
got one of my crystals out, stuck it in front of the lens, got the sun to come through it, and all of a sudden there was a star of light on her eye.
Oh, yeah, cool.
It was, yeah. So it's really fun, and then you don't really know what you're gonna get as well.
Keeps
Yeah,
it fun.
it's just good to, yeah,
Yeah,
and just it's just good to experiment and teach yourself
yeah, true.
something new.
Yeah, yep, yep. We did have a question come in actually because you mentioned your assistant a couple times. So yeah, what do you look for when you're bringing on assistants, and do you encourage them to create their own work?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
They need to be photographers as well. So
Mm.
because I want them to be passionate about what we're doing and not just see it as an income. But
Mhm.
what I look for is actually, it's not necessarily technical ability or anything like that. I want to know that I can spend 12 to 14 hours with them and go traveling with them, and I don't want to kill them.
Yeah.
So yeah, so all of my assistants often end up becoming my best friends, because
Mm.
in my work environment, I want to have the people that I care about the most around, and I want to have a good time, and I want us to be able to read each other as well, and I want them to not get offended by my really bad jokes. Um, so yeah. When I'm interviewing an assistant, I just often let the conversation just has to be supernatural. I don't want to, talk for hours about photography with them. I want to get to know them as a person. I want them to get to know me and see what other kind of interests that we have as well or in common. Because we're coming together because we both like photography. So that's a given. So what
Mm.
tell me who else you are. Um,
Yeah.
and then I want to see if like if I can spend a significant amount of time with these people. The other thing as well that I really look for is initiative. So I've worked with people like in the past over the years that they don't they're just not taking initiative. They're not looking at that next step. So my guys that work with me, like they're immediately, if I'm shooting on the 24 to 70, they know I'm going to want the 70 to 200 at some stage to get a few different angles, so they have it already ready for me. They're bringing water bottles. They're reminding me to drink water, because often I'll forget during the day. Their assistant kit as well, it's incredible. It's like there's tape, there's clips, there's everything that you need. There's umbrellas, snacks, like just all that kind of stuff just to make your life easier and make you comfortable on the day, especially the snacks. My main assistant knows that I like bags of Snickers, so he brings them for me. Ideally, I don't want someone who's just going to stand there and wait for me to tell them what to do, because my job is to come on the day and essentially on the day I'm helping art directing, I'm producing, I'm liaising with the client, I'm trying to think about 5 steps ahead. I know that there's going to be clouds by 1 o'clock, so I know that we need to get a certain amount of looks done by the morning to get that sunshine. And then what are we going to do in the afternoon? Do we need to change locations? All that kind of stuff. So I just don't really, I don't really have time to also think about how, telling the assistant, can you position the reflector this way? Or asking them, can you get my other, my 100 or something like that? So so taking initiative, and obviously that's like not something that comes naturally on the first day with me or anything like that. Like, we need to get used to each other and everything. But the ones who have stayed on with me are just so super organized, and we just read each other really well, and we just have fun as well. It's like, I don't want to come to work and be super serious, because at the end of the day, I always say we're not saving lives. So I want to come and just have a really good time, and I want everybody to not want to leave work when we finish. Like, no one's really checking the time. So
true. And so you obviously go to some amazing places. What do you think is one of your main locations you've loved visiting?
Oh my goodness. Oh my God, there's been so many. More recently, I was in LA a few weeks ago shooting for one of my absolute favorite clients. She's a designer from Melbourne. Her name's Kaya. So she designs One Day Bridal and Chosen. But it's bridal that they just sorry, they allow me to be as creative and as editorial as I like. So it doesn't matter like how expensive these dresses are. If I ask this designer, can I put it in the ocean? She's like, go for it. So I think every single shoot I've done with her, I've stuck one of her like, $40,000 dresses in the ocean. I'm like, sorry, but it looks really cool. So
nice.
But so the location that she took me to 2 locations that I've seen them in movies and in books, and I just never thought that I'd actually get to go there. But we got to shoot at the Goldstein House and Stall House in LA. And the Goldstein House, I just watched The Big Lebowski just recently. I'd never seen it before. My husband put it on the TV, and then and so there was this scene with a dude sitting on this like cool couch in the Goldstein House. And I knew that house because it's a famous house. And then within a couple of weeks, I get a phone call. We're going to LA to shoot at the Goldstein House. I'm like, what? Oh my God! I was just watching that movie. And so anyway, I did sit where the dude sat as well and got a dude shot. So that was that I'm definitely the cool person in my house now. So, and we got to shoot around this pool that it's so iconic. They like some of the most amazing photo shoots that I've ever seen have been at this house. And like Madonna shot there, and Pamela Anderson shot
Cool.
there, and all these like amazing, epic, legendary American celebrities. And so
Yeah.
just to be in that house, if only those walls could talk, honestly.
Yeah. I bet.
That was, yeah, that was incredible. And then there was a shot. So at the end of the day, it was freezing cold. It was like, of course, like when I go to LA, it's like absolutely, it's like Melbourne weather. It was just
Yeah.
cold and raining and windy and all that
Oh.
kind of stuff. So I really wanted this shot of the model diving into the pool, and she didn't want to do it, but understandably as well. The pool, it was freezing cold. So I went around the room and I was like, does anybody want to jump in the pool for me for a shot? And then my assistant, I was like, I'll do it. And I was like, do you want to get naked? And he's like, absolutely. So he was like, because when do you ever going to get another opportunity like this? So
Mm.
yeah, he got everybody went to go pack up, and him and I went outside, and he took all of his clothes off, and just did this perfect dive into the water. He literally got it in one go. And thank God I had my R5 so I could shoot continuously, because
Could catch
honestly
it.
I wouldn't have been able to. Yeah, I caught it like the perfect moment. I caught it. Yeah, so that's been, one of my most favorite experiences recently, like because of the location was just incredible. I just felt like I was, it was being part of history.
Yeah. Nice.
And yeah, we get to shoot at like beautiful beaches all the time, but and like shooting on the beaches, honestly, it's my favorite thing to do, because I love being on the beach, and I love photography. So combining the two just means that I don't feel like I'm working ever.
Yeah. True.
But yeah, so I've seen some incredible beaches, but being able to go to iconic houses, like the Golden House and Storehouse, were pretty mind blowing.
Yeah.
And other than that, we went to Rajasthan a couple of years ago, and shot at a palace in a small village. That every room was just, I've never seen anything like that before in my entire life. Like I've never been in a palace before, actually. So
Yeah. Yeah. True. It's not something you just
yeah.
kind of show up in.
No, exactly. So I
Yeah.
love experiences like that, where it's like, it's not something that I could, I can take myself to, because I can take myself to a beach. That's not an issue. But then getting to go to to destinations like India, has, that's been
Been
really
amazing.
wonderful. Yeah.
And so, do you have any? So, I know obviously everyone watching would probably love to see a few examples, or maybe of like whether it's something you talk about how you edited them, or where you grabbed them from, or just talk us through a few of your faves, or a few that you want to pick out.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So my editing process, actually, it's pretty, I try to keep everything like as true to camera as possible, just because I grew up on analog photography. So so anything that I could do in the darkroom is definitely okay in the digital darkroom, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, on my Instagram, actually, there's the shots of the my assistant diving into the water.
Oh yeah. Cool.
Yeah, so that's that one. Yeah, like I said, we got that in just a couple of frames, so he only had to do 2 dives. And then just to edit that, I just popped it into black and white. I play a lot in Capture One, so that's the main program that I use for everything. And so what it's able to do as well is, like, when I turn into black and white, then I'm able to grab the red, the blue, the yellow, and just play with the channel. So then I can make
Yeah.
just the red of the image a darker black and white, or a lighter black and white, so I can create that like perfect kind of mid key that I want. And so in that, in this image as well, the sky was a little bit too bright, so I just wanted to bring it back down. So Capture One's really been able to give me that kind of flexibility.
Cool.
As well, which is nice. So and it's something that I would have done in the darkroom as well, like just burning in the sky, so then it's not but yeah, it wouldn't have been as perfect, I guess.
Yeah, true. Just quickly, Emily, on the next one you show us, can you if you pop it into full screen so everyone can see just or try and drag the image a little bit so we don't see the background of our stream? Awesome. Yeah, that looks good.
Is that still showing
it disappeared. Oh wait, it disappeared. Go back to the other screen. I think it was
okay.
Yeah, I think if we run from there, maybe that looks good.
Yeah. So so this is the image of my assistant diving into the water in his birthday suit. So so I was really grateful to him as well, just to trust me with this, because it's like for someone to turn around and say, hey, do you want to get naked and jump into a freezing cold pool? It's like, why would you why would you say yes to that?
You can add it to your requests for your future assistants must be able to get in birthday suit to dive in pool.
Absolutely. I think that is very necessary. I know. Well, after we shot this, I was just like, you set the bar for my other assistants.
Yep.
Yeah. And then this image, like this is kind of like what I really love to do, just for my own sort of personal work as well. So I like to use a lot of grain as well, because the images are so clear with the especially with the new R5. So in my post work, I like to add some like harsh grain, I guess. So then it just has a little bit more of that film feeling to it. I think it's never going to really look the same as film, but but we can get as close to it as possible. And then I've changed the color of the water just slightly as well, just to make it look a little bit more true to what I remember seeing on the day. So often when I'm shooting the watercolor or the sky color, it's like it feels too saturated when I bring it into post. So I like to just select the color and just bring the saturation down just a little bit, so then it's not too intense. And that way we can focus more on the subject, or like the fashion piece of what we're shooting or something. Like I just I don't like things to look overly saturated.
And with an image like that, for example, there was a question that came in before asking about whether you involve stylists and all of that in your shoots. So in when you're dealing with fashion or food, etc. Mainly, maybe we'll talk about the fashion side of the things. When you have those shoots, when there's not that, like if they're nude, how do you go about? Is there a stylist involved, or what happens there?
Well, actually, yeah. So often, with the nude shoots, usually we shoot that off the back of something else. So the girls that day, they were wearing bikinis, and then at the end of it, that's so we had a stylist, and so at the end I was like, okay, let's get everything off, and and just do something a little bit creative. But we have hair and makeup artists as well, that it's like really key that they're there on set. So then everything looks perfect all on camera. Sometimes when I'm shooting though, if it's just something for myself or something creative, it will just be myself and the model, and we don't have hair and makeup or a stylist or anything like that. But stylists they're absolutely essential if you're shooting fashion though. Because I'm looking at the overall, the model's pose, the lighting. I'm looking at how the piece looks and sits on the model as well. But there's and the hair, I'm looking at everything. But the stylist is going to pick up on things that I'm not seeing, like the little tiny details. Maybe there's a thread from the garment that's come loose, or maybe it needs to be a bit more pinned in at the waist or something like that, or maybe we can we need to take away earrings, so maybe it's looking too much. So they they're looking at things that I'm not looking at, and it's I just feel like having a whole creative team, it's just like all the pieces of a pizza. You have to have it to make it good. So otherwise I feel like it's too much responsibility, and it's just too overwhelming if you're trying to do that all yourself. And like even having a hair and makeup artist on set, if a bit of gust of wind comes and blows the hair over the model's face, and then her hair gets stuck in her lip gloss or something, and if I'm in a really great position, and if the model's in a really great position, and I don't want any of us to move, you need that person, you need that the stylist to go in to fix the hair and the makeup. And same with the fashion stylist as well. If the wind picks up and then blows the skirt completely out of place, or something, or a scarf goes off the wrong way,
Yeah, true.
you have to have those extra hands.
Yeah.
And that's what, like, of course, like, you can be flexible, like not everything has to look too perfect. Like often we like to make things look more natural and imperfect. But you don't want, a whole chunk wedge of hair stuck in some girl's lip gloss in a photo. So that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
like you need to have your team with you.
Yeah, yeah, cool. And do you find your team helps you if you ever come across creative blocks? How do you go with dealing with that?
Yeah, actually. So when we get together and we start messaging each other, like, let's do something creative, because it's, we're just becoming a little bit too complacent, and all we've been doing is e-com and advertising. We want to do something different. It's always me that I'm like, let's do something, but I don't know what I want to do. So my the girls and guys that I work with will send me through some references and be like, I saw this recently, because most of our references, to be honest, like, they come through social media these days anyway.
Yeah.
And so I'm not following the same people that they're following, and vice versa. So we all get a bank of images collectively together, and then figure out what we're going to do from there. So it's because it's just so easy as well to just end up doing the same thing over and over and over again. So like, I've shot on the beach at sunrise 100,000 times now, and I love it. Don't get me wrong, it's my favorite thing, because it also, like, it takes a lot more effort to go see a sunrise than to go see a sunset. So I do like that effort.
Yeah.
But but then maybe I decide I want to shoot at sunrise on the beach, but then the stylist will come and just be like, let's shoot the model in tulle, or let me make something out of plastic for her, or they'll bring something to to the idea that I wouldn't have thought of before. And then maybe the makeup artist might be like, let's wet her hair and put gold glitter on her eyebrows, or something like that. And again, something I wouldn't have thought of before. So it is really nice to bounce off each other like that.
Yeah.
And so then it's not just all me and my art direction. So because I want them to be proud of the work as well, and be really invested in it emotionally, and know that we designed it together, rather than me just telling them what to do. So
Yeah, true. I think that's good, because then it seems like it's a big group effort and everyone's got to have some input, which is nice.
Yeah, definitely. So and then we can walk away from it being really proud that we made that all together.
Cool. So we're almost going to wrap up, but is there anything that's coming up for you that's really exciting you want to talk about? Like, what's next for Emily?
I'm going overseas in 5 weeks to go shoot all around Greece. Because I also sell prints as well. So I'll be doing that. We're going island hopping for for 3 weeks to just go
Cool.
shoot sunrises and sunsets and go to different beaches, and then we've got a couple of fashion campaigns just off the back of that. So that's going to be really amazing, because I am going to destinations that I haven't been to
Yep.
before. So super excited
Cool.
about that, and just to get out of this cold is
Yeah, true.
is really exciting. So and yeah, that's for the, for the very near future that's coming up
Yeah,
for
nice.
me.
Cool, cool. Well, I think our time is up. We don't have any other last questions or anything. But thanks so much for coming, Emily. It's been really awesome. I just wanted to let everyone know, next up on the couch, we've got Aidan Williams. So Aidan's an adventure photographer. He's up on the 21st. So if you all don't forget to like and subscribe, then you can be sure not to miss it. But yeah, I just wanted to say thanks so much for coming, Emily. It's been awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, guys, and we'll see you next time.